Hey, welcome back to Get Down to Business. Today, we have a guest who truly embodies resilience and reinvention in the entrepreneurial journey. That's Jeremy Joerger. Jeremy is a U.S. Army veteran, author, and entrepreneur who has rebuilt his life and career after a very public fall. He's the author of Business Shit, Lessons Learned from a Blue-Collar CEO, which he describes as a no BS guide for entrepreneurs navigating failure, reinvention, and the hard-earned truth about building something real. Jeremy, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you. Big cheer. I love that. Thank you for the big cheer and the round of applause. You forgot former special agent. Oh, I was a special agent for the Department of Defense, and people usually always want to talk to me about that. So if we don't, I'm glad to talk about other stuff. Let's talk about the book or whatever you want.
Hey, I'm just glad you're an Army guy. Sometimes I have to suck it up and deal with some of these sailors and all that, but that's for another conversation. Jeremy, your book title, Business Shit, is certainly direct. What inspired you to choose that title? And what's the core message you want entrepreneurs tuning in to take away from your no BS guide?
The core message? I guess that being an entrepreneur is extremely difficult, but that's sort of a no-brainer. But I try to fill it with a no BS behind the scenes look. I grew up not impoverished, but my mom grew up in the projects in San Francisco. My dad was a foreman, had one job his whole life, except for a stint to go to Vietnam. And so I did not grow up with a silver spoon. I found myself the head of a business that became the fastest growing brewery in Florida, on the cover of many magazines and all that stuff and TV shows, and wondered how the hell I got there. And I thought, boy, this would be really cool to write about this and to write what it's like, sort of a behind the scenes for other guys and gals like me who didn't grow up amongst the rich kids or grow up with wealth or grow up in a legacy or even grow up with any business background, which I certainly did not. And then they find themselves after taking that leap, and all of a sudden you find an immense success. And so that's when it was born, is when J-Dubs was so successful. And then, of course, COVID hit and everything changed. And it was after COVID and after the public demise of J-Dubs, when we had to file Chapter 11 and I dipped out, that I said, I'm going to finish this thing. So I guess it's that. It's a behind the scenes look at what entrepreneurship really is from someone who's on the journey, who starts the journey, who didn't come up with that background. But it's also a lot of encouragement. And I wanted to encourage the reader. And I take a little different approach. And I know this isn't about the resiliency or the failure that we talk about, but I encourage people to do whatever makes them happy, even if that means not choosing to be an entrepreneur. And I take that a step further, is even people who do get in entrepreneurship, and this is where I stray completely from the beaten path and what we hear so often, is that if it's not making you happy, even if you've tried it, there's nothing wrong with walking away. Now, that's not a flippant, fast thing, but it's or something that should be taken lightly, as any entrepreneur will know. But I think that, like anything, if it's affecting your happiness, it's time to bounce. And that's where I take a little different approach, I think, to a lot of entrepreneurs, is I encourage you to start the journey. I encourage you to consider the journey. If you start the journey, I encourage you to stay on the journey, but I also encourage you to do a lot of soul searching along every step of the way. And if you feel that it's affecting your happiness, if it's taking time from your family, if it's robbing time with your loved ones, or if it's driving you to develop vices that are not healthy for you or your greater good, if it isn't serving your greater good or your higher purpose, then you need to walk away. And that's a little different take that I think that I take, at least publicly, and bring someone to the forefront amongst a lot of entrepreneurs beating the drum of entrepreneurship. No matter what it is you decide to do, I'm going to give you some insight, and hopefully I can give you a little bit of help to figure it out along the way, what you want to do, even if that means walking away from business.
Okay, Jeremy, you're quite the inspiration. I really appreciate it. Failure is often a part of the entrepreneurial journey. Many of our listeners know that, and they're nodding their heads vigorously, but it's rarely discussed openly. What are some of the most important lessons that you've learned from your own failures, and how can other entrepreneurs learn from theirs without being defined by them?
Oh God, man, what a broad question that's so significant. I love this question. Failure is such an important topic. My failure was on the front page of the Sarasota newspaper in the middle of COVID, while I was going through a contentious divorce at the exact same time. And there's more to that in the book. I mean, I was getting sued at the same time by one of our distributors. Failure kicked me square in the teeth all at once from a guy who had really, quite honestly, had never been used to failure in my life. I had kicked tail in just about anything I had done, and that's all I had known. So when this happened, man, I was not prepared for it emotionally. So what does failure mean to me? Failure means growth. It means opportunity. And what an important part of life failure is, because it's not just business. As we know, we fail in anything that we get into that's significant. And failure is part of the journey, and I saw Gary Vee say it. He said something about, you got to want failure. You got to look forward to failures. And I'm paraphrasing, but there are so many more valuable lessons in failure than there is in success. I think what all success really did to me at that stage of my life was feed my ego. And there are a lot more rules to success once you've dealt with it for a while, or maybe in different aspect or areas. But in failure is where the real growth happens, where the real soul searching happens, and where the real lessons occur. And really what I would love to see in our society is failure to be embraced. And it really should be, because failure is wonderful. It's horrible to go through, but it's a wonderful experience if you look at it with the right set of lenses.
Jeremy, I need a quick answer to this one. What's the one hard-earned truth about entrepreneurship or building a business that you wish someone had told you earlier in your career?
They told me, but I didn't listen. Just how fucking hard it is. It is a kick in the you know what, and no matter how tough you think it's going to be, it's 10 times harder. Period. Unless you're a rich kid who can handle the blows and it doesn't bother you, but that wasn't me, and that isn't most people.
Absolutely. I'm chatting with Jeremy Joerger. He's a U.S. Army veteran, author, and entrepreneur. He's the author of Business Shit, Lessons Learned from Blue Collar CEO. We're going to continue our conversation with Jeremy when we return after a very quick break. Don't touch that dial. Hey, welcome back. I'm chatting with Jeremy Joerger, the author of Business Shit, Lessons Learned from a Blue Collar CEO, and he's been giving us the no BS guide, which we really appreciate. So, Jeremy, as a blue collar CEO, what unique perspectives does your book and do you bring to entrepreneurship and leadership that might differ from more traditional approaches?
Well, it's candor and authenticity, I think, are sort of some staples of me as a human and me in business. And honestly, I embellish that a lot in the book. It's as blue collar, raw, and edgy as I could absolutely make it. But I also emphasize that that's for effect. It's for an audience, and it's not the way to carry yourself. So candor and authenticity, I think are the big ones. I think it's also a perspective that's a lot of fun because I keep it very real. And like I said, I put things in there. There's a certain point where someone offered me millions and millions of dollars to get half the company, put a big evaluation, gave me these LOIs, drug me through the ringer for months and months and months, and finally came in and it was like a fraction of what he put in the LOI. And we all know that's standard practice. And that's also one of the chapters in the book is about how these people will do that and show up when you're successful and offer you all this money, and then it almost never pans out. And that's just part of business. But I actually took that LOI and I photocopied it and I put it in the book, the same one, and I redacted all the identifying information, and I put a title underneath his real signature block that was, not fit for PG audiences. And I actually put it in that book that I hand wrote my new title for this individual underneath, whatever it was, founder and CEO. So it's a fun, edgy, raw look behind the curtains of starting a business and riding the roller coaster that it is, from a dude that was basically an enlisted Army soldier, a blue collar jock, who found himself at the head of an org chart in a very successful business.
Jeremy, for fellow entrepreneurs who are navigating a difficult period, whether it's a business setback or a personal challenge, what practical advice would you share with them to stay resilient and keep moving forward?
Well, I mean, that's some right there, but I also think that you have to keep your priorities, right? You have to maintain your and not your priorities in business. Business is part of the snapshot that is your life. And as significant as much time as it entails and takes from you, you have to if you come from a family, you have to put them first. If you have a spouse, you need to put him or her first. And I think that we forget that. And I did because of all the reasons, how much time this takes. And it's also an addiction. I think for most entrepreneurs, business is an addiction. And we could have another conversation about that. And it can be an unhealthy one. But I would say that my practical advice is that you got to keep your family most important to you, and you got to make time for them no matter what happens, because I didn't. and in that, and there were other reasons, but yeah, me and my business and the amount of time and effort and energy and my soul that I put in that business certainly robbed me of my family life. And I ended up getting divorced. And I think my business was probably most of that, and not keep, and again, I'm not saying it would have, we would have stayed together. It would have been great. I don't know, but I robbed my spouse of time that I should have been focusing on her, and same with my children. Thank God they were too young to remember, but I lost a marriage, and a lot of people do. And so I would say, go into business, keeping your priorities the same. You got to, and I put that in the book. You need to make time for the people that you love and your immediate family, no matter how much of your time this thing takes.
Jeremy, J.W. Joerger, I've appreciated your candor. I've appreciated all the advice. And the good news is that you've only just scratched the surface. You've got a lot more advice in your book, and I want to make sure our listeners can find it. How can they get in touch with you and find the book?
Yeah. So first of all, Business Shit. Hopefully you remember that name. It's on Amazon. Type in Business Shit the book. It'll come up. You learn more about me at jeremyjoerger.com. And on social media, I am the Jeremy Joerger. So jeremyjoerger.com, link to my book, amazon.com. You can buy the book, and more about me, jeremyjoerger.com or the Jeremy Joerger.
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much. That's a wrap for us this week on Get Down to Business, the show all about small business, jobs, and entrepreneurship. Be sure to check out my website, syklein.com. Check out Get Down to Business on your favorite podcast app so you don't miss a single episode to success. Let's get down to business. We'll see you next week.